Hi, I'm David Facone, and this is the Grow Your Network, Grow Your Business podcast, the show where we discuss how quality relationships lead to business success. From entrepreneurs to business development professionals and beyond, you will learn the true value that quality networking will have on your business. Welcome to the Grow Your Network, Grow Your Business podcast, where you will learn how trusted business relationships lead to increased revenue. I'm your host, David Facone, founder of beSure, where we believe that growing your business could be difficult, but joining us is easy. Today's episode is sponsored by Applegate Farm in Upper Montclair, New Jersey. Since 1848, Applegate Farm has been providing families in northern New Jersey with fresh dairy products and is now one of the largest retail outlets for ice cream on the East Coast. Visit them at 616 Grove Street or at applegatefarm.com. Applegate Farm, sweet scoops of the past. Our guest today is Wendy Susan Richmond, CEO and co-founder of WSR Results Matter Services. Wendy has spent over a decade as a marketing director for several multi-million-dollar businesses and is also a Grant Cardone 10X certified sales trainer. So welcome to the podcast, Wendy.
Thank you, David. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So for our listeners, if this is your first time listening to our podcast, thank you, first of all. But in each of our episodes, we try to provide our listeners with some valuable information to help them do business better. Today's no different. So please stay tuned because in just a few minutes, I think you'll want to hear what Wendy has to share with you. So Wendy, I have met a ton of sales trainers and business coaches in my career, and honestly, you have impressed me more than most. Please share with our audience how you made the leap from marketing director to becoming a sales coach who really helps other businesses become successful themselves.
Oh, that's a great question. And, I have a successful digital marketing agency. And one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to get better at sales. Okay. It's like, first and foremost, I really figured I needed to get better. And so I Googled, and this name kept coming up, and it was Grant Cardone. Okay. And so when I finally figured out who Grant was, and I started watching him a little bit, and I really actually didn't like him at the beginning. He's kind of if you check him out, he's kind of gruff, and he's like a man's man, and he swears a little bit and all this stuff, and I'm just like, who is this guy? And then I saw, though, as I kind of followed him a little bit, that he was on a show on Discovery called Undercover Billionaire.
Okay.
And I watched Undercover Billionaire, and it's basically on Discovery, and 90 days you're supposed to create a $1 million business and do it without anybody know who you are, $100 in your pocket, and a truck, like an old truck. That's what they gave him. So you're watching these episodes, and the man, I'll give it away, but you should watch it anyway. If you're in business, you should watch it anyway.
You should watch it. I've watched it myself, and it's unbelievable.
Yes. So in 86 days, he created a $5.5 million business. Not $1 million, but $5.5 million, and he bought $1.7 million worth of real estate. So I was just like, all right. I'm kind of sold on this guy more. Wow. That I dipped my toe a little bit, and I went to one of his virtual boot camps. And he was giving a lot of information. I'm just like, there's something about, let me just try one thing. And I wasn't sure that it was going to work. Okay. But I had this client, a potential client that was putting me off, stalling me. And you use in sales, people stall you.
That's right. Not an objection, just a stall.
Right. Put me off. And so I used this technique, and I actually closed a $16,000 a month client. From one technique.
Wow.
So
you're sold now.
I'm sold. I'm like, I'm doing whatever I can. I'm going to master his techniques. I became a Grant Cardone licensee, which means I now have the right to teach and coach and train all around all of the different things that he has, whether it's sales or marketing and things like that.
Okay, wow. That's some story. And, I always have a little outline for our podcast, but, you said something that I have to sort of go off the rails for a minute. I did start watching Undercover Billionaire, and what impressed me most, and this is very apropos to our podcast, Grant is a relationship expert. I mean, they dropped him, I can't remember where, it doesn't matter. He was in a city that was off the beaten path, middle of nowhere, knew no one, had $100 in his pocket. His goal was to just keep that money in his pocket and live off of relationships. Episode 1, guys, I'm just going to tease it a little bit. Grant convincing someone to sleep in his RV. He didn't even know this guy, but how did he do it? He offered value so he could get something in return. That's all I'm going to say, but Grant is a relationship expert. Unbelievable, and thank you for recommending that. I loved it.
Yes.
So, Wendy, you and I met through the North Jersey Chamber of Commerce, which you are relatively a newer member. I'm an ambassador for the Chamber. And when I heard about the amazing service that you provide, I just had to learn more. And since then, we've had several meetings and interactions. We're starting to learn a lot about each other. I love the 5 most common sales challenges that you talk about all the time. What are those, and can you share them with our audience?
Oh, sure. You know, there's kind of 5 areas that people come to me that are having the biggest challenges in their business. And it's either the people, right? The people that they work with, or the staff, the employees, or even people as far as clients go. Prospecting is another big one. Like, how do you can talk to people all day long, but are you talking to the right people? Okay. The other one is follow-up, and how to actually, once you talk with somebody, how do you actually keep in touch with them?
Sure.
Keep top of mind and stay on them until you can, get that deal, right? And then another one is the phones, right? And being able to pick up the phone. I mean, cold calling is not dead, and just answering the phones and being able to do that in a way that gets people and inspires them to want to do business with you.
Sure.
And then finally, actually closing sales, right? Selling and closing, 2 different things,
Right.
2 different art forms. And most people work so much on the sales part, they never really hone in on how to actually close the deal down and get the exchange, right?
Sure.
And so those are the 5.
I think it's great that you or Grant's process have broken it down so granular, because some people that are out there in business are saying, I really, sold the heck out of my product. I provided great value. The customer seemed to love me. Where did I go wrong? Well, did you ask for the sale? Right? Or maybe you asked for it, but maybe you didn't build the value, right? Or, maybe you're just stuck on emails all the time, and you should pick up the phone and have a conversation with somebody. I read a book one time that said conversations lead to closings, and I love that. That really stuck with me.
Yes.
Because, we're in a texting age and an email age, and sometimes the old school phone call gets you to that result that you're looking for. So that's awesome. Yep. So, our podcast is always focused on relationship building, but I want to bring up another word that I think sort of goes hand in hand with that, and that word is fear. I've only known you for a short time, but in the short time that I have known you, I can tell with 100% certainty that you are completely comfortable interacting with your colleagues like myself, your clients, your Grant Cardone students. Were you ever afraid of trying these methods that you teach? And if you were, how did you overcome that?
Oh gosh, absolutely. Oh my gosh. It's like night and day when I see what I'm like now versus, even 10
Really?
years ago. And when I first started my career, I mean, I just couldn't envision going up to somebody and saying, "Hi, my name is Wendy, and you are?" Right? I could never do it. But the more I did training, and I also have a Dale Carnegie background. So
Okay.
Dale Carnegie, for those of you who don't know, he wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? And I went through the training. I was actually a territory representative to sell their in-person training, their public training classes. And that was kind of the beginning of me changing. But it wasn't really until I stepped into the Cardone world and universe where I just this whole 10x mentality, and you just got to get out there and do it and overcome, and just it doesn't matter, just be you and go out and let people just see who you are. And
that's a great one.
So
that's a great one. And so, sort of being vulnerable, right? Being vulnerable, letting people see the real person that you are. That's scary. That's scary at first. And I think the fear starts to subside when you start getting good feedback, right? When you start seeing results, results matter. So,
absolutely.
So yeah, then it becomes a little bit easier and easier. Other than the 5 main challenges in sales, There is one phrase that you have taught me that you use all the time that I think is super powerful. It's the whole reason why we are here today. What is the phrase that I'm thinking about? Do you know what it is?
I do. And I actually got this. I have to give credit. I got it from Grant Cardone, and it's collaboration is the new currency.
Explain that to our listeners. What does that mean?
It is really all about collaboration and partnerships. And again, if you look back and you watch, we'll go back to Undercover Billionaire, is that he collaborated, he partnered, and that's how he could grow the business very quickly, is because he actually proved value to that person, and then he partnered with them. So what I do and what I'm doing to get known and getting out of obscurity is to partner with people and provide as much value in this give mentality first.
I think that's as powerful as it can be, because you and I have gone to 1,000,001 networking events where there are business cards flying around the room. You pass out a bunch, you get a bunch, and you would think by now, after 10, 20 years of doing that, we'd have 5,000 people in our sphere, and we don't. So you do have a lot of people that put their hand out to take, but not a lot realize you have to put your hand out to give first. I think that's great. Great. Thanks for sharing that. So I'm going to tell the story of why I wanted to connect with you in the first place, and then we're going to go into how I can help you in return. So beSure is a networking organization in nature. After spending several years in other networking groups, I decided that I wanted to do it better. So started the traditional networking group where professionals from different walks of life are passing referrals to each other. They're helping each other with mentorship and advice and grow their business and support. But I really wanted beSure to be differentiated from my competition. And when I met you, I had the idea of, hey, why don't I add a really quality sales trainer who I can partner with in case any of my networking members want to get better. I'm an expert at networking, but maybe I'm not such an expert at sales, and I want to lean on you for that. So you and I, in just a short period of time, have established a partnership. So now you're here today because I want to support your next endeavor. Share with our audience what that is.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. It's called a network shop, and it's a combination of networking, training, and mastermind.
Okay.
And the reason why I created this is that, training is one thing, and we've all been to these workshops that are like a day or 2 days, 3 days, a week, whatever, and you get core dumped all kinds of information. And then at the end of every workshop, they always say, go do one thing. And so I'm just like, well, that's great. You give me all this information.
I just learned 1,000,
that's
but
right.
Go do one.
Go do one. And then I'm overwhelmed. So I take the book, the great big thick book that gave me the value, throw it in a desk drawer, and it sits there. So I wanted to create something different where people could actually master a skill and do it a lot faster. And I know everybody loves networking, and so how we could bring people together and teach them sales skills. And this first network shop is all about closing. Okay. So it's closing skills. And instead of doing it 1 day or 2 days back to back, we do it over several weeks. Okay, and it goes back to the Dale Carnegie model, because I went through that program, 25 years ago, where it was 13 weeks, 3.5 hours, 1 night a week, where a group of people would get together, learn a couple of different things, practice amongst the group, and then go out and be tasked with going out and applying that. So what I want to do is something, because it works so much better, because then the next week people are held accountable. You got to stand up and talk about what happened or didn't.
And you're all there for the same goal and purpose, right? You're supporting each other.
So it's the bonding piece of it, right? And that's where that whole networking, because you and I know when you go to networking, when we go to a networking and it's an hour, hour and a half or whatever, you can only do so much. Everybody's there to how many people can I see? And they grab all the cards, and then again, those big cards are sitting. But I would rather bring a group of people together for 90 minutes, 1 day a week, same day a week, over 6 weeks. We learn 1 or 2 techniques, how to close.
Okay.
We practice in a safe environment on the training side amongst people who are all there together. And then we take that and we're tasked with taking it out during the week and using that. And that's what you focus on, one thing.
Well, that's great. And the networking piece, and I know Dale Carnegie, who you studied, always says that every interaction you have with a person leaves them feeling either a little bit better or a little bit worse about you, right? So now you're forcing those interactions for 6 weeks with people that have the same goals and the same desires and the same mindset to help each other and learn together. So that's
Yep, absolutely. And then the mastermind piece of it comes in too, because everybody's helping each other. And if one person is kind of stuck, that we can all as the group help them. And we're actually helping them to close better, which means that they're in front of people who are helping them close them better.
Right.
So there's a real good chance that they might, one, turn into a client, and or they could be a good referral partner for you.
That's really great. So, again, thank you for being here today, and I'm more than happy to support you in your network shop. So any of our listeners or anyone watching us on YouTube, if you have an interest in learning more about what Wendy is offering in her network shop, simply shoot me an email at david@besureusa.com, david@besureusa.com. Simply put the subject line Wendy, and I'll pass along some more information about Wendy's upcoming network shop. So I'm thrilled for you for this project. Other than the network shop, what plans do you have for your business going forward?
Oh my gosh, it's called 10X. All right, so and this thing about Grant Cardone, he is known for a book that he wrote. I just brought this book here. I have to show it. It's called
Sure.
the 10X Rule,
Perfect.
but it's about 10Xing your business, 10Xing your life, 10Xing everything in your activities. So for me, it's about how can I help more people, and taking the network shop, and one of the big things that I'm going to be doing is taking that network shop, and one is going to be on closing, but then there's another one going to be on prospecting, another one on people, another one on networking, another
Really
one on
breaking
those.
it down more and more.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Oh, great. Well, looking forward to seeing that in the future. So I asked this question of all my guests, and anxious to hear how you're going to respond. If you had one piece of advice to someone who is either considering starting their own business or have started one recently, what would you recommend to a new business owner to jumpstart their business the right way?
The biggest thing that you must do, and again, I go back to Grant. There's so much about Grant Cardone and what he has accomplished, and when you hear him, it all makes perfect sense. But people don't buy anything unless they're solving a problem.
Wow.
That's it. So if you're going to be a business owner, or you are a business owner, right, and or new, or even one that's been around a long time, it's about what problems do you solve?
It's not about being a salesperson. It's about being a consultant, being a problem solver, lead someone down the road to where you're going to make their life a little bit better one way or the other.
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, Wendy, thank you for joining us today. I love your energy. I love your message. I love that we connected only a short time ago and are working so well together already. And if you are interested in learning more about Wendy and her sales business or her marketing business, her sales training business or her marketing business, you can visit her at wendysusanrichmond.com. And I want to thank our listeners for joining us again today. Please subscribe to our podcast to hear more ways that you can grow your business through networking from other entrepreneurs and business owners just like Wendy. And you can also like and follow beSure on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. So as always, everyone, business relationship building is a choice, not a chore. Be sure to be building your business relationships the right way. We'll see you next time. Thank you.